It was the night before the holiday season. Leah went to the living room to check the presents. She found a letter from Santa. In this letter, he said that overall, she'd been good the whole year. That's why she'd get the gift she's been dreaming about. But since she had her bad moments too, she would have to find it. There were 5 wrapped presents. As soon as the girl opened one, the other 4 would disappear. Her present had a square shape, had a red ribbon, and wasn't small. Which present should Leah open? It's this one, big, square, and decorated with a red ribbon. Mrs. Brown was a landlady of an apartment building with a no-pet policy. Not even fish were allowed. One night, she heard a cat meowing. The sound was coming from the floor above. The next day, she inspected 2 apartments. In which apartment does the cat live? Look, the furniture and curtains in this apartment have scratch marks. There must be a cat somewhere there. Now take a look at these 2 people. One of them is a happy owner of a dog. But which one? It must be this person. Look, his clothes are covered in dog hair. Sierra's cat has 5 kittens. 4 of them are white and 3 have black spots. If every kitten is either white or has black spots, how many kittens are white with black spots? Four plus 3 is 7. There are just 5 kittens, which means that the surplus 2 are the ones who have both characteristics. They are white with black spots. It's that night of the year, and Santa is sneaking into houses with presents. But it's not only Santa that decided to pay people a visit. Look at these 2 chimneys. Where is the real Santa? Have a look. This guy has huge legs, and some green fur is poking out of his boots. It must be Grinch. The real Santa is this one. A tricky question for you. Frosty the Snowman went to see the dermatologist because his head felt itchy and dry. What does the snowman get when he scratches his head? Of course, it's snowflakes. Ned works in a club, and his job is to check people's ID cards and not let any suspicious people in. Take a look at these IDs and try to figure out who isn't supposed to enter the club. So, here's the first one. He seems fine. Let him in. What can you say about this man? Would you let him in? Don't let him in. There's a typo in the word date, which is unacceptable for official documents. Okay, next. Look at this woman. In or out? This woman's photo is obviously too old. Normally, IDs have recent photos, or at least people are recognizable in them. This photo must be 20 years old. That's too suspicious. Okay, here's the next guest. What's your verdict? He seems fine to me. And what about this woman? In or out? She seems alright. Green light. Okay, another one. In or out? Year of birth, 1099? Way too suspicious. Don't let her in. Not this time, young lady. Daniela is a new detective in town, and there's a case for her to solve. At night, someone robbed a mall and stole all the presents prepared for the winter show. In the morning, the videos from security cameras were analyzed. There were 3 main suspects. All of them were interrogated. Bernard said, "I have nothing to do with it. I came back from work yesterday and I was watching football until I fell asleep." Samuel said, "Today in the evening I was very tired, so I just went to sleep and you woke me up." And Jason said, "I was studying all night for my exam in the afternoon." Who should Daniela arrest? Both Samuel and Jason look very tired, but only Jason has a valid reason for not sleeping. Also, Samuel called the previous day, today, by mistake, which means that he probably didn't sleep that night. And there was no clear difference for him between the 2 days. A detective was on a plane when an accident happened. In business class, someone stole an expensive necklace right from a lady's neck. It was 1 hour into the flight, and the lady swore that when she had boarded the plane, she'd still been wearing her jewelry. There were 3 main suspects, all fellow passengers. Ronald said, "As soon as we were allowed to leave our seats, I went to the bathroom to make an important business call. I've just returned." Gabriella said, "I was sleeping and listening to music. I didn't leave my seat even once." And Camilla said, "I saw the necklace and thought it was beautiful, but why would I steal it?" Who do you think is guilty? It must be Ronald. He's on the plane. He can't make calls there. Your first task is to help Santa. Which chimney is safe for him to use? The first one seems to be completely blocked, so no oxygen probably flows through it. Might be dangerous. Look at the second chimney. There's no snow on it, which means that the fireplace is working at the moment. Santa should choose the third chimney. It's not fully blocked, but there's some snow on it. So there's no fire in the fireplace at the moment. A man on a motorbike crashed into the window of Mr. Ruby's store, grabbed a dozen of expensive watches, and drove away. When the police arrived, Mr. Ruby told them that he was almost sure it had been his nephew, Patrick. The officers went to visit the guy. Because of a heavy downpour, they got there in only an hour. Patrick was at home, together with his friend. "Look at the weather! I haven't been outside since yesterday." Patrick's friend confirmed his words. But the police didn't believe his story and arrested Patrick. Why? The guy's helmet is hanging on his motorbike. If it had been there since the previous day, it would be filled with rainwater now. One day, a famous soccer coach went missing right from the changing room. The police had 3 suspects, and all of them were from the coach's team. Brandon said that after the training, he'd stayed on the pitch to practice a bit more. He hadn't been to the changing room yet. Andrew swore that after the training, he had gone outside to meet his girlfriend. And James claimed that when he'd been leaving the changing room, the trainer had been there. Who is behind the disappearance? It's Brandon. He said he hadn't been to the changing room yet, but he's wearing not his uniform, but his street clothes. On a summer night, Emily threw a big party. But in the morning, she discovered that someone had stolen all her jewelry and money. The police have 3 suspects: Daniel, Emily's boyfriend, Lily, her best friend, and Hannah, the girl's sister. Daniel told the police that he'd been playing computer games with his friends all night long. Lily felt sick and went home in the middle of the night. And Hannah said that she'd stayed at the party until 7 a.m. and then taken a taxi. It was too dark to walk home on her own, and nobody could give her a lift. Do you know who's lying? It's Hannah. At 7 a.m. in the summer, it's already light outside. A wealthy businessman disappeared right from his house. The detective who arrived to investigate the case found nothing unusual, except for a mysterious note with 377I3 written on it. There are 3 suspects, Eric, Ellie, and Colin. Help the detective to identify the criminal. The kidnapper is Ellie. Her name is the one coded in the note. One day, Santa got hungry, so he decided to make a stop at the supermarket to get some food. He didn't want to leave his gifts unattended, but he also couldn't bring them inside, so he left his bags near the entrance. Unfortunately, after he paid for his purchases, he discovered someone had taken the gifts. Can you help Santa find the thief? It's the third guy. He's trying to hide the gifts he's stolen. One kingdom was burned to ashes by a magic fire that was impossible to extinguish. The only person who survived was the prince of the kingdom. He decided to travel to the land of witches to figure out who had destroyed his country. There he met 3 witches, gray, brown, and purple. "My kingdom was destroyed by witchcraft. Who did it?" The Grey Witch answered that at the moment of the attack, she was on vacation in Africa. The Brown Witch told the prince that she had just returned from India. And the Purple Witch claimed that she could predict the future and heal people, but she had no power to control fire. Can you figure out which witch is guilty? It's the Purple Witch. How did she know about the fire if the prince never mentioned it? Mark was wandering through the forest, trying to find a bus station. Suddenly, he met a man who told him that he'd soon see a crossroads. There would be a post with several signboards. The right one will lie, the left one will tell the truth. And indeed, a bit later, Mark saw this post. The right sign said, "To the bus station," and the left one read, "To the forest." Can you figure out where the station is? So the right sign apparently lies, and the left sign will lead Mark back to the forest. He should go straight, and then he'll get to the station. A married couple came back home and found Santa lying unconscious on the floor. They called the police. When police officers arrived, they started interrogating the suspects. Those were the couple's kids. Their 17-year-old daughter claimed she had been on the phone with her boyfriend while her parents had been away. Their twin sons said that they'd gone to bed early to wake up early and unpack their presents. And their youngest daughter answered that she'd wanted to surprise Santa, so she'd been baking cookies for him. Look at all the suspects attentively and say who is guilty. It must be the youngest girl. Look, the cookies have been made with peanuts. Santa must be allergic to these nuts. You go to the supermarket and buy an egg and a chicken. The total cost of your purchase is 108 coins. But the chicken is 100 coins more expensive than the egg. So, how much does the egg cost? My first instinct was to say 8 coins, but 100 minus 8 doesn't give us the 100 coin difference. The egg actually costs 4 coins. Sophia disappeared right from her house, and from a note found in the living room, the police got to know that she had been kidnapped. Detective Peterson, who came to investigate the case, decided to question the woman's neighbors. Anthony told the police that he had worked the night shift. When he came home, he went straight to bed and was only woken up by the detective. Ryan explained that he had planned to organize a barbecue party for all the neighbors, but since it had been raining the whole day, he had to cancel it. Lauren said that she'd been downtown doing some shopping and had just come home. The detective immediately realized who the liar was. Have you figured it out too? Lauren lied. It had been raining all day long, but there are no puddles under her car. It means she hasn't been anywhere. Stacy has just moved to a new town to start a new life. Her real estate agent has offered her 4 houses for rent. Can you help Stacy find the perfect one? The first house has uneven floors. The second one is standing too close to a fast food restaurant. There might be too much noise and different unpleasant smells. The fourth house is haunted. Look at the portraits on the walls. They're moving. Also, there's a ghost reflected in the mirror. But the third house looks pretty cozy and safe. As soon as Stacy moved in, she received 3 welcome cakes from her neighbors. But there's only one edible cake among them. Can you help Stacy recognize it? There are not only berries but also a cockroach on top of the first pie.
Ew.
There's a human tooth hidden in the coconut flakes on the third cake. And the second cake looks good, even though its color is rather weird. Stacy invited her neighbors for dinner to get to know each other. She showed the guests her unique ruby that she had found in Thailand. Everyone had a lot of fun. But when the guests left, Stacy noticed that the ruby was gone. She called the police and showed them the pictures from the party. Who stole the ruby? This guy. He hid the precious stone under his head. Stacy got an invitation to a barbecue party, but when she arrived at the location, something scared her very much. The house was full of rats. How many rats can you spot? The correct number is 13. Stacy heard some music and walked around the house. In the backyard, she saw a campfire party. Everyone roasted marshmallows and told horror stories. Stacy wanted to join, but she noticed one creepy detail and decided to go home instead. Why? This guy doesn't have a shadow. He's a vampire. The next morning, the vampire guy, whose name was Luke, came over to Stacy. He explained that their town was quite unusual. Most citizens were zombies, mermaids, vampires, elves, and werewolves. But all of them got along really well. Luke took Stacy for a walk to show her the town. She got hungry, and they went to the local restaurant. Can you help Stacy spot a zombie among these customers? This woman over there. Take a look at her food. There are worms in her noodles. After lunch, Luke confessed that he liked Stacy and invited her on a date. He was very attractive, so Stacy said, "Okay, but first, you gotta crack my riddle. The things I bite, they don't bleed. I don't bite until you push me. I bring something together every time I bite. But it comes undone again if you pull it just right. What am I?" Luke gave his answer and they went on a date. What did he say? I'm a stapler. Luke and Stacy went to see a movie and chose a scary one. They sat in the middle of the empty theater. After a while, Luke pointed at the screen. He was very scared. Stacy also noticed one creepy detail. What scared the couple so much? Since Luke is a vampire, there should be only one shadow on the screen, Stacy's. But look, there are 2 shadows. They're not alone. Next morning, Stacy went shopping. The local supermarkets offered plenty of weird stuff for zombies, werewolves, and other creatures. Can you help Stacy choose the right milk? We can see milk number 1 in this zombie's basket, so it's probably not good for humans. Milk number 2 is standing on the shelf with the inscription, "For elves only," so the best option for Stacy is milk number 3. In the parking lot, a thief stole Stacy's bag and escaped on a motorcycle. Stacy got into her car and drove after him, but she got stuck in a traffic jam. Finally, she reached a crossroads. She saw a traffic officer there. Stacy asked if he'd seen a biker in the past hour. The officer said, "I haven't seen any today." Look at the camera pics of 3 main roads. No one has driven down the first road for an hour. 2 mounted police officers have traveled down the second road. And only 1 blue truck has driven down the third road. Which way did the criminal go? He chose the third road. He hid inside the truck. The police in the town liked Stacy's way of thinking very much and offered her a job as a detective. She received her first task immediately. A dangerous criminal escaped from prison. Stacy had to catch him. The evidence led her to a farm. She saw a man working in the field. Detective Stacy asked him if he had seen any strangers around. The farmer said, "Sorry, I didn't focus on what was going on around." Stacy immediately guessed that he was the criminal. How? If he's a farmer, why has he ruined the crops? She tried to stop the man, but he escaped again. Stacy continued chasing the criminal. Suddenly, she saw a house and entered it. The owner was inside. Stacy asked him, "Has anyone visited you today?" He said, "No, neither have I left the house." Then Stacy asked, "Do you live with your family?" The man said he lived on his own. By that point, Stacy had already figured out that the guy was a liar. How did she guess? There are 2 cups of coffee on the table, and a wet umbrella is standing near the door. Stacy realized the guy was wasting her time on purpose to let the criminal escape. Suddenly, she received a message from her colleague. People had seen the criminal at the local shopping mall. He was hiding in the ladies' bathroom. Stacy knew exactly where he was hiding as soon as she got there. Can you see the criminal? He's over there. The guy managed to escape from Stacy through the window. He ran to a crowded street. Stacy followed him. Can you help her find the criminal? There he is.
Adley came to a cafe to study. She ordered a hot chocolate and a croissant. She added a bit of sugar to her drink, started to drink it, and noticed there was a fly in her cup. Adley asked the waiter to get a new cup of hot chocolate. 1 minute later, the waiter brought it to her. Adley took a sip and exclaimed, "It's not a new drink, you just took the fly out." How did she understand it? Do you remember that Adley put some sugar in her hot chocolate? Well, the supposedly new drink was already sweet. Delilah went missing. The police had 3 suspects. The first one was her friend, Ellery, who was the last person spotted with Delilah. Ellery said they had gone shopping together, but afterwards they both went home. Delilah's boyfriend, Walt, said the girl hadn't come home, and he assumed she stayed at Ellery's place. The last suspect was Delilah's father, who lived in another city. He said he didn't even know he had a daughter. Who should the police arrest? They should arrest Delilah's father. He said he didn't know he had a daughter, but there's a picture of Delilah in his house. Boy, he's some father, huh? On a rainy evening, Kaya came home and found that someone had eaten her chocolate bar. How rude! She asked her siblings who had done that. Laura said she had been working out in her room and she didn't even eat sweets. Sienna said she would never eat someone else's chocolate. Harley said that she had been outside watering plants in the garden. She had just come home herself. Who lied? I'd say it was Harley. Hey, it was raining outside, so she didn't really need to water the plants. Esme was walking in the forest and guess what? Got lost. She tried to find her way back, but instead, she stumbled across a witch's house. She petted a black cat and asked the witch to take her home. But the witch had a riddle for Esme. I'll do my bad witch impression here. Look, there are 10 pencils. They are in this order: 1 pencil, 2 pencils, and then 3 and 4. Arrange them in reverse order, from 4 to 1, by moving only 1 pencil. Okay, enough of that. How can Esme do it? Esme should take the third pencil from the group of 4 and put it between the first pencil and the group of 2. Okay, now I have a maze for you. It's amazing! Can you find the way out? Yep, here it is. Help this mouse find its way to the cheese. It should go this way. Now, let's test how attentive you are. Look, here's a ball and 3 cups. I'll put the ball in here in the middle cup. Your task is to watch the ball and then tell me where it is. Ready? Go! So, where is the ball? Look, it's here. Did you get it? Now, I have 4 cups, and I'll be moving faster. I put the ball right here. Watch it. Where do you think it is? It's in here. Would you make a good detective? I have some cases for you to crack. A young girl, Juniper, was spending her evening reading a book. She didn't eat anything. She didn't drink anything. Still, she suddenly felt bad and called the doctor. It turned out she got poisoned. But how? Juniper occasionally licked her fingers when she needed to turn a page. The poison was on the book's pages. Another girl, Cicely, was poisoned too and brought to the hospital. The examination showed that she hadn't eaten or drunk anything that day. Can you figure out what poisoned her? Cicely didn't eat anything, but look, she's wearing lipstick. That's what contains poison. The police just have to figure out who gave the girl this product. Miss Virginia Dell called the police and reported that her diamond necklace had been stolen from her room. Someone had broken in by smashing the window. A detective came to her house and saw that the window was indeed shattered and the room was a mess. Do you think someone really robbed the lady, or was the whole thing staged? No one robbed Mrs. Dell. If the window had been broken from the outside, there would be glass on the floor. But the floor is clean, which means the window was broken from the inside, probably by Ms. Dell herself. During summer break, Penny's friends invited her to go camping. Penny didn't like such activities, but she also didn't want to admit that she'd rather stay at home watching TV. So, she said that her parents had invited her to go to Greece with them. In reality, she stayed at home and binge-watched TV shows. Her family sent her some pictures from their vacation. Penny photoshopped herself into these photos and sent them to her friends. But when they saw the pictures, they realized that Penny wasn't in Greece. How did they figure it out? Penny is wearing the same outfit in every photo. It looks very suspicious. Mrs. Lawrence had 3 teenage daughters, Bonnie, Cassidy, and Sierra. They were all grounded and couldn't leave the house. Still, a neighbor saw one of the girls in the mall. Mrs. Lawrence came home and asked the girls what they'd been doing. Bonnie said she had been reading all day. Cassidy said that she had been painting in her room. Sierra said she'd spent the day in the garden and had just returned home. Which of the girls was in the mall? Both Cassidy and Sierra have some dirt on their shoes. That's okay for Sierra since she was in the garden. But Cassidy said she hadn't left her room, which means she lied. Yvette always wanted to get a cat, but her mom didn't allow her to have one. Once the girl found a kitten in the street and brought it home. She knew her mom would make her take it to the shelter, so she decided to hide the animal. Yvette managed to keep it for 2 weeks without her mom noticing anything. But one morning, Yvette's mom walked into her daughter's room and realized a cat lived there. So, how did she figure it out? Yvette is wearing shorts, and her legs are all scratched. Kim and Stacy headed to a music festival. Unfortunately, their car stalled halfway in a wild field. They walked to the nearest gas station and called mechanics to check their car. The engine was damaged, and the repair process required 3 days. Kim and Stacy decided to continue their journey and asked someone at the gas station to give them a ride. Which driver is the safest option? The third guy. Remember the advertisement on the wall? This car was stolen, and this person is a wanted criminal. Can you see anything weird in this picture? This guy is wearing a cap underwater. Tim and Eve participated in a ballroom dancing contest, but their performance was a total disaster. Eve's shoe fell off during their dance. After leaving the stage, Eve checked out her shoes and realized that one of them was 3 sizes larger than she is usually wearing. Josh, the contest manager, said that all dressing rooms had been guarded. Marta, the cleaner, said she had been washing floors in the dressing rooms and didn't notice anything suspicious. Another dancer, Kelly, said that her pair of shoes also had different sizes. Who's guilty? The cleaning lady confused the 2 pairs of shoes, Eve's and Kelly's. She put all the shoes on a shelf while cleaning the floor and then put them back in the wrong order. Can you see anything weird in this picture? This watermelon doesn't belong here. 2 police officers received an anonymous message. The criminal they've been looking for is hiding in Mr. Green's house. The officers arrived at this house and interrogated Mr. Green. The old man told them he had been living alone for 20 years. He has never seen any criminals in the neighborhood. The officers knew immediately that he was lying. How? There are 2 plates within the room, both of them with forks, so he's probably hiding someone else in the house. Can you find the odd one out? This dog over there looks pretty angry compared to the others. Sarah is a pastry chef. She prepared a fancy cake for her client's wedding and delivered it to a luxury hotel. When she arrived, she saw 2 wedding couples. She screamed, dropped the cake on the floor, and ran away in tears. Why? One of the couples has no reflection in the mirror, which means that they are not humans. Can you find the odd one out? This fruit has a different shape. One sunny day, a vampire bit Mike. His wealthy parents called the most famous vampire hunter, Mr. Vlad. Mr. Vlad examined Mike's neck to make sure that he was bitten by a vampire. Then he questioned the house staff. The gardener said that he had been watering roses when it happened. The maid was in the cellar and didn't hear anything. The cook was preparing dinner and didn't notice anything suspicious either. Who is lying? The gardener is lying. The vampire bit Mike next to rose bushes in the garden. The gardener should have seen them. Look at these crayons. Can you make 4 triangles? Voila! Granny left her apartment to go to their family house in a village. She invited her relatives to join her when the summer break began. A week later, they came to see their granny. But when they saw her, they immediately realized that the woman was definitely not their granny. How did they know? Their granny had been wearing her wedding ring. And if she took off the ring, where is the ring tan line? Hey, there's also a tail somehow. They could definitely see it, even though she was hiding in the shadow and hid the tail under a long skirt. Oh, Granny, what a big tail you have. Becky is a famous singer. 2 hours before her performance, she entered her dressing room and found out someone had stained all of her costumes with paint. She got furious and questioned all possible witnesses. Becky's stylist, Fred, said that he had just arrived. He didn't know anything and was shocked too. Another singer, Rachel, said that she had a meeting with fans. And Dan said that the dressing room was locked, so he left without cleaning it. Who is lying? Fred is lying. He has a few drops of blue paint on his suit. 4 farmers have collected 3 bags of oranges. Can you help them distribute the oranges equally? This riddle is tricky. Farmers need to pour all oranges out of their bags, count them, and distribute them equally. Paul is a shy college student. One day he received a weird, anonymous love note, which said, "I love you, Paul. Meet me in the library, 5 p.m." Paul got curious and went to the library, hoping to meet his destiny. But the library was full of pretty ladies. Help Paul to identify who wrote the love note. It's this librarian over here. She's hiding behind the bookshelf and holding a pink spiral notebook. The sheets look exactly like the one with the love note. Joy loves her co-workers very much, but this Monday, someone broke into the office fridge and took her pasta bolognese. Joy brought her lunchbox from home to eat during the workday. She got very upset and questioned her colleagues. Emma was allergic to tomatoes and couldn't eat Joy's lunch. Peter didn't eat all day because he was too busy with an urgent project. And Alex had dinner with business partners at a restaurant. Who is lying? Emma. If she is allergic to tomatoes, why is she holding a taco with tomatoes she already started eating in her hand?
Look at these 2 guys. One is big and burly, and the other is short and thin. They're in a cafe, drinking identical drinks. The shorter one gulps his drink down in one go and leaves. The other man sips his drink slowly. Then he falls to the floor and is taken to a hospital. Can you explain why it happened if they had the same drinks? The drinks contained poisoned ice cubes. The man who enjoyed his drink gave these ice cubes time to melt and release the poison, while the other man didn't. An Arab sheikh told his 2 sons that they had to race their camels to a distant city to see who would inherit his fortune. The one whose camel arrived last would win. After wandering aimlessly for days, the brothers asked a wise man for advice. After listening to his opinion, they jumped on the camels and raced as fast as they could to their destination. What did the man tell them? The wise man told them to switch their camels. Look at these 2 guys. They're wearing similar clothes, both holding coffee cups, and in general, seem to be perfectly okay. But one of them is a werewolf in disguise. Which one? Look at the guy on the right. There are strange marks on the rim of his cup. Were they left by his fangs? Also, his pupils are a bit elongated. And there is a paw print design on the plastic bag he's holding. Is it a special store for werewolves? A rich entrepreneur disappeared from his office. The only thing he left behind was a note with the numbers 6, 4, 9, 10, and 11 and a calendar. The police have 5 suspects. All of them, the businessman's acquaintances. James, Kevin, Carol, Jason, and Laura. who knows something about the man's disappearance. Jason. The numbers mean months of the year, and the first letters of these months make up his name, Jason. A furious traveler at the airport claimed the contents of his baggage had disappeared. When I got my suitcase, it was empty. I want you to compensate for what I've lost. After checking the passenger's info, airport security found out that he had indeed left London with a heavy suitcase, and now his bag was empty and a bit wet. The whole situation was suspicious. Can you figure out what happened? The passenger left London with a suitcase full of ice. During the flight, the ice melted, and the man demanded compensation for the lost belongings. Matthew bought a new smartphone and a phone case. He paid $510. The gadget cost $500 more than the case. How much did Matthew pay for the phone? He paid $505. Last night, on a full moon, several people disappeared in the city. Locals believe that the kidnapper was a werewolf, and you are invited to investigate this case. There are 3 suspects, Jack, Levi, and Luke, but all of them have alibis. Jack was walking with his girlfriend near the river. Levi was choosing a silver ring for himself in the mall. And Luke, who is a museum guard, had a night shift at work. Which guy is guilty? Jack was walking under a full moon and didn't turn into a werewolf. Levi wasn't afraid to put on silver rings. The werewolf and potential kidnapper is Luke. Detective Black's assistant, Josh, was late for work. When he arrived, he told his boss the following story. I was driving along the highway when I saw an unconscious man lying on the left side of the road. I picked him up and took him to the nearest hospital. Finally, he came to his senses. He told me he had been pushed out of a moving vehicle, but the bag with all his money and documents was left inside. Strangely, Detective Black told Josh that the man had lied to him. How did he figure it out? If the man had indeed been pushed out of the car, he would have been lying on the right side of the road, not the left one. Criminals caught 3 men and locked them in a basement with only one window, high above the floor. Oh, no. The men decided that at least one of them needed to escape and warn the police. The men stood on each other's shoulders, but the one on the top still couldn't reach the window. But then they did something, and one of them managed to escape. Can you figure out what they did? The tallest of them climbed on the top, and since, proportionally, this man also had longer arms, he managed to reach the window.
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.